Hello, this is Sahar. I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast. Karen Clickner, welcome back to London.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you again. And in the last podcast, we talked briefly about health campaigns, if you like, the Healthy Breast program that you've started, which you're very heavily involved in now.
Right.
And I'm wondering if today, if we can discuss adrenal fatigue and if we can make the connection as to how adrenal fatigue is linked or can be linked to infertility.
Well, it's interesting because I'm really starting to realize how many couples are experiencing infertility, and there are very few options for them out there, particularly natural options. Most people are having to resort to invasive methods and various types of treatments that are not only embarrassing but also not terribly successful. And there's a lot available in the holistic community for infertility, and looking at some of the things that power an infertile situation can really change the couple's ability to have a child.
That's amazing. And in your experience, can men have adrenal fatigue as well, which can lead to infertility, or is it a different treatment for
The adrenal
men and
fatigue
women?
is really more a female issue. Females seem to struggle more under stress. They tend to be more multitasking, have higher expectations.
So it's a
of
self-induced
themselves.
condition.
It really is. The choices that they're making are just wearing out their adrenals, and so they're developing symptoms like insomnia, excessive urination, problems with circulation,
and sometimes I think
heart
it's also
rate.
like hot flashes.
Yep, it can be many things. But the interesting thing is the adrenals also have a very strong aspect that control female hormonal balance.
Mm-hmm.
So they can actually be way out of balance with their reproductive hormones, and it actually be the fault of the adrenal glands.
And it makes it impossible to actually conceive
Exactly.
a child.
Not even just to conceive, but to carry as well.
Really?
Yeah, I think that a majority of miscarriages are actually situations where the adrenals are so weak that the body considers the growing child to be a stress, and that the body can't tolerate that. And for the survival of the individual, it will expel the child to keep the mother alive. Because that is one of the natural tendencies of the body anyways.
So if you're treating a male for infertility, what is the program, or what sort of things to look for? What can help them?
Well, I hate to say it, ladies, but the majority of infertility situations are female. In the male situation, the most common thing that we come across is low sperm count, low sperm motility, that type of situation, which is just devastating for a guy to have to deal with. And there's an amazing herb called Tribulus terrestris, comes out of Bulgaria, is the only active species that really works. And when we put our male patients on Tribulus, like a good amount, 4 tablets at a 30 ratio, like twice a day, will end up getting their sperm count tripled within a month.
Really?
I mean, it will do amazing things for their motility. And the greatest aspect of that is that Tribulus is also a testosterone precursor. So it will increase sex drive in both men and women. It will increase lean muscle mass. It will change the metabolism.
Is that the same stuff that was used by the athletes, or used to be used by?
Yeah, in Bulgaria, the Olympic weightlifters used to use Tribulus in order to really develop their muscle mass. Yeah, exactly.
Do we know what causes the sperm count to be low?
There are a lot of factors that affect that. Excessive heat to the body will do that, which is what they talk about in Chinese medicine. Restrictive undergarments. There are lots of things that will change the ability of the sperm. The interesting thing is that the fluid that the sperm are residing in is a lymphatic fluid. So if there's any lymphatic congestion, immune issues, that will also affect the motility of the sperm.
Before we started recording, you were telling me about a recent client of yours. It's actually a couple where you had to treat the female and the male.
Well, it was interesting because there were two situations. The male patient had an extremely low sperm count, and in fact,
the husband.
The doctor had said there is absolutely no way that you'll be able to conceive a child. And at the same time, the female had such severe adrenal fatigue that she was getting up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and passing out on the bathroom floor because her blood pressure would drop so dramatically. And yet the doctors couldn't really determine why she was having this vasovagal response. So we started treating her for the adrenal fatigue, treating him for the low sperm count. His sperm tests were amazing within 3 months.
Really?
It took longer for her. It's taken us almost a year treating her for her adrenal fatigue.
Levels.
Yeah,
really?
to get her
Amazing.
adrenals up. Well, because she's still under a lot of stress with her work and everything else. So she's continuing to function as we're doing this. But now they've just fallen pregnant recently.
Yes, you've just heard the news.
Yeah, so they're absolutely thrilled. And she's older. This is her first pregnancy, and she's 43.
That's amazing. Their first baby at 43.
Yeah, and they've been trying for many years. So it's an
and
amazing
I know
thing.
because you mentioned earlier that you're going to see them actually in Switzerland.
Yeah, I am.
So anyone from anywhere can contact you for treatment?
Yeah, because much of the treatment that we do, we can actually do at a distance. A lot of it is herbal. A lot of it is testing and lifestyle adjustment and that type of thing. Although we do have people that will fly into the clinic in Boston frequently to get treated.
Really?
But I've done a lot of work here in London and then also in Geneva privately with people, working and coaching them through.
And of course, when you and I first met, we really met over the internet, and I had my consultations over the telephone, which were very, very useful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only until last year that we've actually met, but even if someone doesn't or cannot for some reason go to Boston, they could always...
Yeah, we can always do phone evaluations and at least get people on a program and get them started. And it might not be exactly what we want to do for them, but it'll get them in the right direction. And then hopefully we'll get to see them in person at some point so that we can be very specific about the treatment that we do.
Is there going to be a book, Karen, about all these treatments and the different tonics, the marvelous tonics that you come up with?
I've been working on a book for quite a while for people to actually be able to monitor their health themselves, for themselves and their families. And it's about more of a diagnostic approach, not the typical books that say, oh, this is what's healthy for everybody, because everybody's not the same.
I mean, it's really interesting because also we were discussing earlier how adrenal fatigue can also be linked to asthma, which is, I don't think a lot of people, it's not mainstream
I
thinking.
would say that in our patient population, 90% of the asthma cases we treat are actually an adrenal problem.
So what's the association? How
well,
does
what
that
happens
work?
is the adrenals also have a lot to do with the balance of sodium and potassium or acidity, alkalinity in the body mineral levels. And so people that are asthmatic tend to be very alkaline.
Very alkaline.
Yeah, and because they're so alkaline and their body's not acidic enough, minerals will precipitate out of solution and will establish small colonies like in the lung tissue, in the breast tissue, in the liver, and it just inhibits natural function.
And of course, one thing that people can do, which doesn't cost an arm and a leg, is to learn how to breathe in order to de-stress.
Breathing is huge.
And it really affects the adrenal.
It does affect the adrenals. Not, people think of breathing as only being about the lungs, but the adrenals are hugely involved with breathing because they are the glands that respond to stress. So if you're breathing and really breathing well and keeping stress at a low level, your adrenals will function much more effectively.
And the adrenal glands, are they specifically
They
just
sit on top of the kidneys.
The
Yeah,
kidneys?
you have a pair of them. So, in fact, their function is very much linked with kidney function.
Kidney function, and it seems sexual organ function or hormones.
Yeah,
It's
and
basically
determining
the whole
how
area
the
of
nervous
lower.
system responds to stress.
As
Whether
well.
you're going to be in the fight or flight response or whether you're going to be in a more relaxed everyday state.
So this is probably why people who have adrenal fatigue also come and keep running to the bathroom. Is it
They
the
run
fear
to the
factor?
bathroom. They tend to either over-exercise or be completely sedentary. They can't sleep at night. They are exhausted when they wake up in the morning. There are just a lot of adrenal symptoms that are very typical.
And the tonics that you do, they're completely herbal.
Yeah, all the tonics that I do, the liquid tonics, are herbal. I do have general formulas that we do, but we also personalize them for each individual so that they can get exactly what they need in a liquid state.
And is there something that for just general well-being?
There is, and it really
or
is
that not
blood
how you
building.
work?
We do when you get to a certain point. Once
Right.
we've gotten you to balance,
Right.
then we can figure out what's necessary to support you. And I would say in the majority of cases, it's about keeping the blood built.
Right.
So many people, everything begins with a weakness in the blood, which is what the Chinese have said for centuries.
I mean, our listeners would be also interested to know that you can also help people with cancer, people who have had radiotherapy in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a particular herb that helps them.
Eleuthero, which has the misnomer of Siberian ginseng, because it's not really a ginseng. And that actually protects all of the cells in the body against all types of radiation.
Even from television or
Even
computers.
from people that are sitting in front of computers all the time, which is another thing going back to fertility.
Yes.
Is one of the biggest factors affecting men's sperm count and that sort of thing is exposure to radiation.
Really?
So interestingly, the reason that we think this particular patient we discussed had low sperm count was he's a producer for a television documentary program. And so therefore he's exposed to the radiation of equipment all the time. And we really think that is what had a lot to do with his situation.
That's interesting, because we don't think. Do you think mobile telephones, cellular phones affect us?
I think they definitely affect us, but nobody really knows to what extent or whether it's going to affect everyone equally, which I tend to doubt. I think it's based more on what each person is susceptible to. Exactly.
And the Luthra would help.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, I hope we get to meet with you next time.
Oh, I'd love to.
And we'd love to chat to you some more. Thank you very much, Karen Clickner.
Thank you.